welcome in. Good morning, Michelle and Indigo. Good evening, everyone else. Oh, and Mouse. Good morning, Mouse. Good evening, everyone else. It's good to be together again. If you have it in your heart, maybe we can light our candles together if you have not yet. I see Andrea already with your flame. It's so beautiful how your screen captures it. It's so powerful, that candle you have. I'm going to light my candles now. Something about women lighting their candles together. I think there's always a potency there. Yeah, I don't see Nadia today again. Maybe I haven't heard from her about how she feels, but I know Josephina. Oh, she's here without camera for a while, and then she will be joining us with video on. And did I hear from anyone else? We'll just, and I know Petra is not coming today, but it does seem like that one more person is not quite yet here. All right, so I would love to invite us to begin where we left off, kind of with the story and whether just to reinvite our bodies into that ancient ocean of remembrance or flow or whatever really was true for you. And the way I'd love to invite us to do it is in little breakout sessions and one person guiding. Um, softly, softly, whoever wants to, or like, I'll invite specific people today just because I've been, just tracking the field and I know who hasn't gotten a chance to guide that much, or at least my perception is that. But of course, you can say no, I'm not willing to do that today. Um, and yet I do invite you to take the opportunity when it comes, because there are ever fewer now, right? Ever fewer possibilities to do this. So in the breakout rooms, I think what I want to really give you is 20 minutes just to have some warm up time. And you as a guide can choose how to do it. And it really doesn't, that there's no guidelines. Like you can begin any and which way you want, with the breath, with the muscles, with the tissue, with walking around the room, with instantly seeing yourself at the ocean, whatever, whatever. But however you choose to do it, choosing to guide people soon enough in the practice, right, to um, experience themselves in the story again. Maybe they can choose where to land in the story. Right? They can choose which piece of the story they want to explore, or maybe they can just restore themselves to the flow again first, and then choose which snippets of the story to remember. And guiding doesn't mean that you narrate the whole time. Guiding doesn't mean that you're shaping every minute because you now get a chance to do that, right? Um, guiding can be, and I think the most powerful style of guiding could be, in this case, in most cases, is to create an environment where the person has a lot of space. You shape it and you let it be. You shape it and you let it be, right? So give space. All right, so 20 minutes and just as a guide, I will be sending you time marks, but really as a guide, look at your own clock. Know your own timing, set your own timer if you want. And just make sure that about maybe 3, 4 minutes before the time is up, you can invite people to just kind of surface, begin returning, or like, yeah, just make some kind of transition. Maybe a couple of minutes are enough. 20 minutes for the guiding. No, 20 minutes for the guiding. Then we will come back. That was Irmak's question. Is it just the guiding or guiding and sharing? 20 minutes for the guiding, and then we will come back together in the main room. So you won't be doing sharing in the small rooms, but we will come back and do sharing here. We will not be just breaking down the guidance today or giving you feedback in the moment specifically. We will just come back and share as a group. And wow, I'm just realizing it's going to take me a moment. Let me do this actually. Hold on one moment. Give me one moment. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. Oh, I have four. Perfect. So how about this? Hmm. Okay, okay. I'm gonna ask you like this. Oh, huh. No, I want to give more people a chance today. Okay, how about that? How about mm, Irmak, are you willing to guide today? Great, thank you. Mouse Bird, are you willing to guide today? Awesome. Um, Stephanie, are you willing to guide today? Is Stephanie here? Oh, I can see you. Yes, hello. Are you in a space where you can guide? I know you're traveling. Great. And Nina Rubea, are you willing to guide today? Where is she? I can't see her. You are? Great, excellent. All right, let's do that. And I will make sure that on our next call, more of you will get a chance to guide Wednesday. All right, so let's do this. I will offer a song in the chat right now. I will, and I sent it in WhatsApp as well, but I will offer it here as well. If you want to use a song, loop a song. Play just one song. Don't go playing a playlist because I mean, unless you have a playlist, but prepared for this, right? But just loop one song. Do you know how to do that? I'm going to just very quickly show you. And let me ask you, the guides, would it be helpful to show you right now how to loop one song over and over again? Or do you know how to do it? Okay, you don't know how. Okay. And let me ask this also. Do most of you or all of us, specifically the guides today, do you have a playback platform where you can find music and play it without ads? Spotify, stuff like that. Good, good. Because, if you don't yet have that, I think it's a good time to orient toward that because as a guide, you will be needing that. And I know it costs money, but so does everything. So, Um, all right, so I'm going to show you how to loop a song. I'm going to share. I think Zoom has a new allow Zoom. Oh gosh, okay. I need to do all kinds of settings to do that. Hmm. So I'm not sure. As I said, I'm on a new computer and it seems like I need to change all kinds of settings. Oh, let me see. Hmm. It's not allowing me to share my Spotify. So without like I don't want to spend too much time here. If you go to your Apple Music player or Spotify player, right where the player is, where you can kind of play or pause the song, right next to it in that player, the last little indicator or option is you can click on a little thing to enable repeat one or disable repeat, right? So you have to click it twice and it's going to show the number one right next to where you fast forward on the right-hand side to the fast forward button by the play pause. Just in the player down below, you will have the option to click the thing twice and it's going to show the number one. That means the song is going to keep looping. That one song is going to keep looping. Is that clear? And
Stefana, if you want to have me share the screen, I can share it on mine also.
sure, let's do that. Thank you.
Okay. So right down here, it'll
Yes,
say
please.
enable repeat, and you click it twice, and you'll see the little one.
Mhm. And then you play the song. Make sure you've selected the song before you click that thing, right? So you've selected that song and then you click that. All right. Thank you, Michelle.
Mhm.
Awesome. And if you don't have a play, yeah, Nina Rebea, go ahead.
Can I play my own music in the
Absolutely.
room? In the room,
Absolutely.
like I can just you know, I don't know how to explain it, but this is the way we're doing it in the peer session. Like
Of course. You can do whatever you want. At your app, you have full creative freedom. Absolutely.
no, it's not about the freedom. It's just that this is technically possible. Play my own music in the room.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is technically. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I didn't understand your question. But yes, it is possible to. I believe it is. We've allowed sharing in the room, so should be no problem. All right. So 20 minutes. Enjoy, and then we'll come back to the main room. And each room has between 3 and 4 people. So yeah. All right. Stephanie, are you not seeing the joining option? So rich. So good. I only had a glimpse of you, Stephanie, but it was a really good glimpse. Yeah, very wonderful. So, yeah, okay. Hello, welcome back from the ocean forest. We are back in the main room. Take your time. Go slow. I hope you all had enough time to land back and transition well. It always feels like not enough time at the end. Is it so? Please, guides, tell me, like, this will always be the case. I keep adding time to my workshops, to the training, you know, and then it's never enough anyway. So it's something there to always give yourself a lot of buffer time, you know, because you plan these things and you think it's going to take half an hour and it takes 2 hours. All right, Wakamis, welcome back from the seaweed forest. Mm, um, we're not going to engage in giving feedback to the guides at this moment because at this point, there's mastery in the rooms and I see it. I see it everywhere. And I'm just kind of in awe with you, honestly, as guides at this point. It's really, really beautiful. We have like full respect. Um, and some of you had to do this without music, which is like a whole other level of going for it, you know, because like we couldn't figure out, Irmak had to do it without music. And Stephanie had to do it with Michelle playing the music. So I'm not sure why. Like I really technically we do allow music in the breakout rooms, and a couple of guides were able to play it without a problem. So I'm not sure what that's about, but what I would love to open up the conversation about. Can I just like before I do that, I'm remembering a story. Maybe it's helpful to share it right now. Not a story, but an experience of in my early years of guiding, being invited to Ecstatic Dance Oakland just to do the warm up class. You know, it's a class where, you know, like maybe 70 people show up early before the dance, and I was guiding that class, and it's just like a big thing and a big opportunity, and just kind of like pretty nervous. And it's a huge space, and you know, and then I show up, and all these people show up, and I'm about to begin, and the producers come and say, "Well, we can't. So where there's a problem with the sound system, we can't play music." I'm like, "What do you mean? I'm teaching a dance class. Like you know, I can't teach it without music." And I texted the main producer who wasn't there. And I was like, you know, I can't teach the class because there's no music. And she's like, well, could you please do anything, something? Like anything, just like, you know, you have to, there's like an hour, maybe an hour of just space that people have paid for, and something needs to happen, right? And I had to teach a class with like an hour long class, movement class without music. And I had to come up with like something completely different. And you know what I'm talking about is because I remember it as a formative experience for me, that I leaned into something completely unexpected. I had to revise in the moment. And what I chose to focus on was like the intimacy of detail and the person feeling their own music and connecting with each other. And whatever the strategy, I feel like the way I've remembered it is that, oh, now I can do anything because I did this and it worked, and now I can do anything. Like it just like when you're in these moments when you can't really do what you're supposed what you've prepared for, then you just have to work your genius in a completely different way. And it's like it's incredible. So kudos to you, Irmak and Stephanie. Just like had to, and also everyone else. Just really amazing work today. So good. What do we want to presence in a few words, both as movers and as guides? You know, you can, if you want to actually speak to anything in the guidance, you can. I'm not going to silence that. But also just really want to report from the story and our bodies in the story. Like if anything is surfacing, is being touched, and just to honor the story a little more, like what is the story bringing us today in this moment? Especially those of you who are hearing the story for the first time yesterday. Mousebird, yes.
Um, that experience of dancing in that prolonged container with the high fidelity of the story and the full permission to embody the experience of the character in the story was such a disruption in my own story. Like my own story of the way that I move and the way that I dance and the, like I'm dancing my own story all the fucking time. I'm like, I'm like, is there something else? And so it was just so medicinal to take on, especially wakame, the medicine of wakame. And in that experience, after that, I was so soft. I felt so soft. And I just had so much more resource and capacity to feel into my own wakame and especially just in the I am who I am, and I am who I am, and I move in pleasure and communion and such deep intimacy and loving connection with all of my beloved beings, the ecology that surrounds me. And I went to the farmers market and I just put my headphones on in the middle of the farmers market, and for 20 minutes I just anchored in that quality of like wakame, just with people sort of moving around me. And it was so it's like so it just like it that story gave me my mission for the day, and as a way to integrate and to just allow myself to inhabit that energy amidst the chaos of whatever is happening in a sea full of people. And the villages are like, you're kind of weird, you're kind of weird, come on back to the village, get your husband, get your job, and so it just felt so good to almost in defiance, but not really, but more just like soft allowance of just like, it felt so good to be wakame in the middle of the city, just on a regular day. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Beautiful. Are there any other shares that need to happen, Michelle?
Yeah, I was thank you, Stephanie. There was just so much spaciousness. And I know as a guide, sometimes like my brain gets worried that people, are like, okay, tell me what to do. Tell me what, like they get lost in there. And what I also know is that when there's enough space, people finally drop in, right? And so for me, I was able to really drop in and play with the movements, the various kinds of movements that came out around how do I keep tapping into the village? How do I keep tapping into my sisters, into the wisdom that's all around me? and let it feed me first and then give that medicine to the people. And so I just found myself finding all these different ways in my body to keep tapping in and bringing in and then giving and playing with what it felt like to just give and how that depletes my body. And by doing that for 20 minutes, I feel so restored right now. Like I feel so filled up by just playing with how do I keep remembering that my sisters and the wisdom is over here and I need to feed it to me first and be with it and marinate in it and dance with it, and then I have permission to go give it, but not until then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, so good. Thank you. Thank you. Darren.
Maybe not too dissimilar to Michelle, but what emerged for me happened, I think, at the intersection of the way that the word medicine was landing for me, that Irmak was using. To me, it felt like quite frequently in the retelling of the story, and how that was landing in my body, which really wasn't feeling great at the start of this practice, and just being like, I actually feel like shit right now, and this dance of being with the story, but also being with like I can't quite be in the tracking of the story. And then Irmak was dropping the potions, and I was like, well, what have I got? What's gonna work? Maybe 2 parts joy, 1 part like frivolousness, a little sprinkling of, and I was just working with a emotional ingredient list. It's like, this is my recipe book right now. This is what I got. And completely lost myself in a moment with moving with the potions and the absolute joy of like, yeah, thanks, Wakami. The medicine is within me. That's what we're doing. It's like, yeah, that's what we're here to fucking remember. It's like the medicine is within me and I feel shit right now. And the potion is within me and we're with the ocean and, each other's hands. And it was just a really beautiful, visceral reminder from her in my body for what my needs were today to come out 15 minutes later and be like, yeah, thanks. I dropped into the medicine that I needed and look where it was the whole time, exactly as she has told us, exactly as is per her story.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Thank you, Darren. Awesome. Love hearing all of these things. Indigo.
This particular telling of it, I was really thinking, especially without having the music, of the importance of rhythm, like the rhythm of speech, and even within the story of contacting all these qualities of life, from the bark to the bunny rabbit to the river, there being, even in the way that the word is spoken, it becomes its own music. And that's resonant too in Stefana, the story you were just telling, of like tuning into that detail that becomes its own poetry within to resonate with. So just thinking of that rhythm and the power of storytelling and our role as guides to provide that rhythm, whether or not music is there. And then just one thing that Mouse said made me think of is yesterday when I got out of session, I'm at my partner's parents' house, and I didn't mean to, but I just kind of retold the story, just the bullet point version. As soon as I emerged, I was just like, oh, we just went into the story, and then all of a sudden I had kind of told the whole story. And it was interesting that the mother's response before anything else was, she responded most to the mother in the story, and she said, well, but is that fine too? Like, is what is her desire, is what she was trying to do, like, is that okay too? So I just wanted to put that in the space, because now I've been thinking about that and curious about like someone who that's who they resonated the most with, in that story.
Mm. So good. Thank you. Amazing. I mean, just I feel compelled to say this because we are every character in this story. Of course, it's okay. We are doing this for ourselves too. We're like, save yourself, go do something normal. Go, please, just save your life. Comply, right? We are the mother. Of course, it's okay. And so there's so much grace in what she's doing too. So it's really touching and beautiful to hear that the mother of your partner is responding to that. So sweet. Yeah. So precious. Andrea.
It was so interesting that I had the honor to be guided by Steph up Aspernic today, and she just was in that universe that was most important for me yesterday in the story, the flowing, the flow, the floating, the ocean. And Steph today posted a little video about the ocean where she apparently is right now. And the guiding was so organic. It was like Stephanie came out today from from the ocean waves and went directly in guiding the wave. And I don't know precisely what you said, but it was very much, I became a wave. I mean, I love the ocean so much. So it's easy for me to become a wave, but I really felt your wave coming through the screen, going to me, and then I took the wave and we surfed the wave, and it was one of the most beautiful guidings I'd ever had. Really. Thank you, Steph. I loved it. And she brought us to infinity and to the wisdom that really vibrates in every wave of the ocean. Such a infinite universe of wisdom and and this deep life, this very, very deep life that's there. So I love it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrea. Yes. Just one piece really quickly. There's just to speak, because I will forget later, to speak to the importance of revisiting, right? Because in your own work, you will be doing that too. You will be doing a powerful journey, but then the blessing of having a follow-up or returning with the same group, returning within the same program, right? Instead of just like a one-off, like you have a powerful experience, yes, but then to follow up and to come and land back in it again, and actually to do it the next time again. There's something about going back to the same place in this work, in the work and the world in general, how people are like, let's go to Paris and then to Rome and then to Italy, and then to Australia. But what if you go to Rome and to Rome again? And then to Rome again, or to the same place in nature. Not that you conquer a hill or a valley. I saw and like I put my flag in there. It's a very masculine way of going places, right? And then let's go to the next. Like let's discover the new. But what if you develop a relationship? And so it's the same here. Like you would go back and we did back into a story that's already worked us so deeply, and then there's so much more, and so much more, and so much more. And it happens through relationship and through revisiting the same place, right? So just wanted to say that.
Can I say something to that? Children, when they have a favorite fairy tale or myth, they want to hear that hundreds of times, not once, not twice, not 3 times, hundreds of times. So they really dive deep into their favorite fairy tale or myth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. That's so good. Yeah. It really speaks to the same. Anna.
I really liked the story, but for me, it was not working to move through the story. I don't know. I mean, it was the first time that I was doing this experiment, so I don't know if it was the story or if it is the fact that if I have to move through a story, those are not my feelings. Like, so it's more like acting. For me, it was feeling very like, oh, that's not me. Yeah, but I'm not feeling like that.
Mm.
So yes, that was a bit difficult, but the story was really good. Like I really liked it, and I really liked how we got into our own embodiment journey after, and then today also with Mina was like really really nourishing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. So the movements of Wakami, the movements in the story were not your own somehow. I felt like you're trying to perform them.
Yeah.
Ah, really interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. Because I have this, and maybe it's superficial, like observation that like I've told this story in like for a decade and like all these rooms around the world, and my experience has been like that it's like not a single woman, and I like to say this, I kind of like this story about the story, that not a single woman in the world is not moved deeply and does not discover the organic movements of Wakami in her own body. But it seems like actually, sometimes it doesn't quite land, maybe not on the first time, and maybe there are bodies that, their native way of remembering is different. Like there's a different doorway, and maybe this is not like your doorway. Like I'm just really curious.
I think there was, or because there was also a lot of narration, a lot of facts, and that was like confusing me. And then like this is like she's doing this, picking up that, and then going out, and then doing that, and then there's an emotion, and then there's an action, and so it was maybe also that throwing me off. I'm not sure.
I think it might be that there's a filter in the cognitive body first, which is strong, that is tracking what is happening and really tracking, and that's your part of your genius, to track cognitively and to really hold the gestalt, like just the pieces and how they work together, and if it's making sense, and if it like there's a way in which you are, and so through that filter, then for that to land in the body takes, like it just like comes through the filter, I think, of the cognitive. That's one of my theories, but maybe just like it's worth exploring deeper. I'm very curious about it. I'm going to keep thinking about that. Thank you, Anna. So, I want to keep talking a little bit more about story and metaphor and how that informs embodiment work and how we use story in our work. Not there's just one story, but how, like the many ways to use story, the many, like, if you feel compelled to maybe use story in your work, in your sessions in the future. How many of you feel like, oh my God, I really want to work with story? I'm very clear about that. Okay. And Josephina, yes, we can see you, but it's a yes, great. And it may not be for everybody, right? Because storytelling may be not one of your fortes, and or maybe you don't quite know how to feel story in your own body yet, right? Like Anna was saying. So you don't have to go there yet, but it seems like a lot of you are willing. But before we go into that, I really, really want to do a final piece here with the personal genius. And I mean a final piece for this moment, because the personal genius will never be contained, will never be finished, right? Personal genius is about soul work. So like it's about about your whole, why your whole life is being, like how your whole life is flowing, right? So it just keeps being reinvented and added onto and developed. But just in this intersection of your life, I asked you yesterday this question: why did the story find you in this moment of your life? Why were you present for a call like this yesterday, where a mad woman is telling like kind of a story about another mad woman who didn't save her life and just went ahead and gave her life over to preserve the story of deep feminine medicine. And so, like, why did you end up like what? And so you have already been talking about it. Everything we've been sharing about the story, and even including what you said today, each and every one of you who spoke today, that already is an answer to this question, right? Why did the story find you? Well, because I needed to make my own potions. I needed to remember that my own medicine is within me. Or that, oh, I needed to experience the deep, deep restorative flow of the feminine in my own life over and over again before I can go and teach it to other people, right? So these are already answers to my question. But and I think I wanted to do this, and I just want to include this here. It just feels, it wouldn't feel right to not say this. Beautiful guidance today, Nina Rubea. Amazing rhythm, amazing piecing of words, amazing playlist, amazing holding of the people. Thank you. Incredible guidance from you, Mouse, today. Just so nourishing to feel you really like give all, like so creative, and like, and then you went into laughter and you had people move with a sea creature, their favorite sea creature, and it's working so well and so beautiful to witness you today, Mouse Bird. And Stephanie, I had a very little opportunity, but whenever I did capture you guiding, because I knew Michelle was there, so Michelle was going to catch me up. So I didn't spend much time there, but amazing. When I did catch you, it was just your face and your body and just making it like literally in the craft room, in your craft room of your craft, you were just being witch. And it's just so powerful to witness you. And Irmak, without music, you chose to basically practice with kind of almost like retelling the story again in summary, and you were, and I loved how much you were flowing in your own body and your eyes closed and then open, just really pulsing and having people really touch different pieces, like retelling the story again. It was just so beautiful. So thank you, each one of you, for taking that opportunity. Just mastery. I'm like, okay, we're good to go. We're good to go in this group where here come our practitioners ready to give medicine to the world. So if we look at our personal genius, the bottom, let's imagine that bubble at the end. Who is emerging? Who is here? Who is she who is waking up again in this world? It's not new. It's a part of the signature of your soul. It doesn't feel new, right? You're not just all of a sudden, oh my God, look at who I am. No, it's more like, oh wow, yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. Oh yes, 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 yes. This is who I am. I love how many of you spoke to the piece and the story where Wakami was like, I am who I am. I am who I am. I am who I am. I may have to die for this, but I am who I am. That's just kind of like, it's so much power in that place, because I actually cried as I was in that piece of the story. I was crying as I was guiding it. So, and that last bubble of the personal genius, there comes the time now where you have to name that part of you that you are who you are. You are who you are, and that's just that. And you are going to have to stand by it, with your whole life. And it is also about claiming a stance, a skill. It is about skill. It is about inherent talent. Like if I have to say one of mine, just to as an example, I've been many things, right? Like I've been a sensual writer. I've been a genius teacher, well, genius mentor. I've been, say, who knows what. I've been many different things. I've been maybe in some ways an embodiment pioneer. And I'm not, afraid to say that. But I think someone I am now claiming and really, really feeling I stand in my with my whole life is a mature feminine activist. Just like one of the things that just like, and it's new to me, but it's also so ancient, it's just a part of my lineage that now that I'm heading into my 50s soon, I can claim. I'm like, whoa. And it wouldn't let me rest. It's like it's whispering from all sides. It's like, this is what you're doing now. This is what you're doing now. And I do wake up some mornings going, oh, I don't know. Am I now a mature woman? I don't really want to be like an older woman. And I want to still be with the younger women. And like, there's just so much resistance and moments still. And the mature feminine in me is kind of like, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. Just kind of wait, sitting there, just standing there and offering herself. But so that's one piece I'm claiming. So who are you claiming? And I wanted to do this work now, just in it, like I don't mean we're gonna go there for like an hour. We're just gonna do it in a few breaths. And maybe you already know exactly, and maybe it's gonna come to you now, but through this story too that we told yesterday, right? You are claiming a part of your personal genius that you can no longer deny, and that you will have to stand by, and I mean this, and I keep saying it, with your whole life, which means you may have to end relationships, you may have to quit your job, you may have to stand in the trial and fire of creating yet another business, or maybe a new business or a new job, right? A new relationship, a new community. You have to meet this part of your personal genius with your whole life, like what Kami did, right? So again, I am asking, why did the story of Wakami, which is really a story of the personal genius, find you now? And who is this in you who says, I am who I am? I am who I am. What is she called? What is her name in archetypal terms? So I invite you to some writing in phrases. Yeah. And this may not be new. Again, this you've already done plenty of work around the feminine genius or around the personal genius. So this may be just you reaffirming what you already tapped, or this may be you crystallizing even yet another phrase about your personal genius. So write down one or a few or two. Just another 30 seconds or so. And like, if you read these words back to yourself now, out loud, right? I'm going to give you a few moments to do that, just to speak. It's almost like speaking your name back to yourself. Like, you're gonna do that and you're gonna feel, but like I really want you to do it as if you're saying your name back to yourself, your soul name, right? And then you're tracking the feeling, the emotion, the sensations of what that causes in your body and what it stirs. And if it isn't stirring, then this is not your name. Do you know what I mean? Should I say this again? Okay, so you're going to read these, what you wrote, these names, these archetypal names back to yourself out loud, slowly, in a way that you can feel. And you have to, and you will be tracking the feelings and sensations in your body and in your soul. And you will recognize which name is the truest, or if all of them are true, or if one of them is not quite true because it doesn't stir anything in you. You have to feel stirred. So just read those names back to yourself, say those names back to yourself, and track feeling, sensation, and stirring out loud. Do it out loud. You're all muted, so we just do it that way. Seems like you're still working on a few things. Do we need another minute or two? Yeah? Okay, so just look up when you're ready and I'll know we're ready to go. It's almost like these words must land in you as a recognition of your own essence, right? It's almost like saying, Stefana, I'm Stefana, right? And I am a mature feminine activist. Just like that's who I am There's no question about it. So it has to really be landing as your own name. It's like your own name. However, it is not something I would necessarily put in my bio. Like, I'm a body witch. And my deepest essence from when I was a child, I'm a witch of the body. I feel people through their bodies. I understand their bodies. I know how to guide them through their, but it's just like, it's just who I am. But I wouldn't say it in my bio, right? This is just for me. I know who I am. My bio can be more practical, less woo-woo, right? But I know I'm a body witch. I'm not afraid to say it to myself. And who are you? Who are you? We're going to go into a circle, and each of you will just get to speak your name. Tell us who you are. No explanation necessary. You don't have to explain it away, right? Like because, or I'm not sure, but like, there's no speak your names or name without hesitation. Speak them, in fact, with your deep voice. Right? With a voice that trusts you, that is not just your reading voice, but the voice that says the truth in an embodied way. So say it in your embodied voice. And it's unfortunate we have to do this without Petra and Andrea B. and Carmen and Nadia. But hopefully they can witness us and we can witness them then later in some way. And I've been meaning to tell you this in so many moments of this weekend, and it's always just felt so we're in such a different deep space. But Carmen isn't here because she's traveling to the U.S. to be there for an elder relative's birthday. I'm so sorry I didn't name her earlier. It just didn't feel right. But then every time I remembered, it wasn't the right moment. And then Andrea B will be here later today. And hopefully Nadia's not in too much pain. And while I'm at it, I sent Genevieve a message yesterday to tell her that we sent a prayer and some light her way. And she responded to give you her kindest and warmest gratitude and regards, and to express her affection, deepest affection for our group. So very sweet there too. All right, so with all of these women present with us as well, the ones I just named, we can open our circle and just name who is here. Again, this is not about bragging or inflating ourselves. This is not about doing something that's inauthentic. This is just the most authentic naming right now. No fear, no shame. No trying to make ourselves smaller than we are, just inhabit yourself. And it's going to be very simple. We're going to go around and we're going to hear from each other. And then as people are speaking or after they've spoken, if you feel like you want to, I don't know, share anything in the chat or just a gesture or a movement, feel free to animate in whatever way you want. All right. We're going to start with Anna.
Witch!
Mm-hmm. Welcome in, witch. Hello. We see you. Andrea L.
Lover of the sacred being.
Mm. The lover of the sacred being. Hello. Michelle.
Elephant woman who carries medicine in her hips.
Mm. Elephant woman who carries medicine in her hips. Hello. Indigo.
Need to refine from 4, but
You can speak all four, Indigo. You can.
Yeah.
Mhm.
the human naturalist, the explorer of expression, the creatrix of connection, the poet of the people.
Mm. Mm. The human naturalist, the poet of the people, remind me,
Yeah, explorer of expression
explorer of expression,
and creatrix of connection.
creatrix of connection. Oh, I feel that all of these do live under one, as obviously, but like yeah, they could actually fit into one. Maybe, maybe not.
Mhm.
Hello. Hello. All of that. Hello. Nina Robert.
It really touches me deeply, and I feel the truth of Baba Nina. And right now, there's like this part of Baba Nina, which is very active right now, and that is the midwife of dawn.
The midwife of dawn.
Yes. And there's another one, they're all connected. It's the mother of ash and flame.
Mm. Baba Nina,
Mhm.
the mother of ash and flame. And the bringer, no, not the bringer. What is it? To remind
Midwife of dawn.
midwife of dawn. Mm. Hello.
Mm.
Hello. Nicole.
The one who remembers and who gathers wisdom.
The one who remembers and who gathers wisdom. Hello. Nina M.
The one who guides and creates into the monstrous feminine waters.
The one who guides and
It's a long
creates.
one.
Can you say your name again?
The one who guides and creates into the monstrous feminine waters.
The one. Oh, and that's the laughter we know her by. The one who guides and creates into the monstrous feminine waters. Ooh, hello, hello. Darren. Mm.
Anansi. Anansi.
Anand.
Anansi.
Anand.
African spider god. You may never have heard of them. You are now introduced to Anansi, the African spider god, weaving from the center.
Mm.
Creatrix.
Mm. Anansi. Hello. Hello. Miles Bird.
Yo, 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 what up? This is Little Red, Robin the Hood, the woman who bleeds, wears blood, gives blood to the flowers, plays with the animals, and eats the fucking animals.
Hello. 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 I don't dare to repeat your name, but I welcome you here. Hello. Yes, Irmak.
The soul guide who catalyzes change and holds.
A soul guide who catalyzes change and I didn't hear the last word. Irma.
Holds.
Holds?
Yeah.
Hold.
Hold.
Thank you. And hello. Hello. Stephanie. Are you speaking? Because we can't hear you.
No, I'm still not speaking. But there, in the end, there was coming one thing. It's the Maestra of the Waves.
Say your name again, please.
The Maestra of the Waves.
Hello, Maestra of the Waves. Maestra. Hello. Yes. Erica.
I'm still in the process, but a few things that I've noted down. Messenger from the unseen source, light from the earth, elixir from the root, I have so many things written down. I don't want to read them all, but yeah, those are a few. I have to work on one name.
Let's experiment with this. Say your name, please.
The messenger.
Hello, messenger. Yes. Yes, messenger of the unseen worlds and elixir of the roots, but messenger it is. Hello. Hello. Josephina.
Hello. I am Hix, which in Danish is a witch. Hix.
Hicks.
Hix.
Ooh. Hello, Hicks. Hello, Hicks. Hello, everyone. That is us and body witch. I'm the body witch and the mature feminine activist.
Hello, body witch.
Say again?
Hello, Body Witch.
Oh, hello. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. So yes, from this place, I think the undulation and the pendulation is between the mythic and the practical, right? I don't want you to get too stuck in the practical, but I don't want you to get stuck in the mythic either, right? Because we can remain a little bit too caught up in who I am, a whisperer and a divine elixir messenger, and then to just stay in that would not be necessarily the channel for giving the medicine, right? So we have to pendulate between the mythic and the practical. In other words, I invite you to walk the mystery path with practical feet, right? And so our next movement in this training is really about the practicalities of our personal genius, through which more of your personal genius will be fleshed out. It will be truly given flesh, right? Personal genius, which now could be in the realms of the mythic and the mysterious. Through our next piece of work or pieces of work, you will be giving practical feet to your mythic soul. So you can walk in the world, right? This is a physical world. And oftentimes witches have to also make money and have jobs, and it's all of that exhausting stuff, you know. But hopefully it's not always exhausting. But so we're gonna take a break, and when we come back, we're gonna talk a little bit more about story, like what is it to use story? Just we're gonna break down a couple of pieces, and then we're gonna talk creative field project and the rest of the training. All right, so let's come back at what is it? 45, 55? No. What is it? 45? 35, 45. 45, right? I'm confused. Please help me. Yes, let's come back at 45 to the hour, or 15 minutes till the hour. All right. Okay, returning, coming back to circle. So, yeah, and I see you, Indigo, saying here, I think my 4 names might be nestled or nested under the Sacred Explorer. Hello, Sacred Explorer, wherever you may be at this moment. All right, so just wanted to offer us as a community to address the power of story in embodiment work. So incredible, right? Like, why? Why is it so so powerful? If you can just write maybe one of the reasons you feel story is really powerful. Why is it powerful for you? What does it create for you in your body? Like, I guide journeys without guiding a story all the time, and they're still powerful. But what is the story piece? What does story do for you in embodiment that is unparalleled and like unparalleled in other journeys that do not include story? Like, why is story so special? Andrea L says, oh no, really? Andrea B will now be joining today. Okay, that's too bad. Irmak says the story speaks with symbols, so outruns our minds. Story speaks with symbols, so it outruns our minds. Like a kind of, yeah, it silences, or maybe just like it becomes louder and bigger than our minds. Yeah. And Nina Rubert says deep remembering. Let's pause here. So, because like, what is the deep remembering about? Because, I find it to be true, depending on the story being told, right? But in general, what story does is it touches on the mythopoetic identity of a human being in many different ways, right? Like you each had a very different experience with the story, but those pieces that are universal, the mother wanting for her child to save her life. Who wouldn't relate to that? I'm not a mother of a child, but I feel it with my whole body, right? It's like it's universal. Or a woman being prosecuted and put to death for her gifts and her wisdom and her medicine. What woman would not relate to that, right? Like, so they're mythopoetic, universal elements in a story. That's why we tell stories. Well, that's one of the reasons why we tell stories, that we recognize ourselves in a story through finding ourselves in a universal encapsulation of spirit, right? That's the remembering. It's like, oh, here I go again. Here is me as a mother longing for her child to be well. Here is me longing to rediscover, to individuate myself and say, this, I am who I am. Oh, yes, I must be who I am. I must be willing to die for who I am. Because my culture tried to numb me out in every possible way and offer me all kinds of alternative paths to walk and to make money and to be locked in an identity that isn't mine. And all of a sudden, someone is telling a story, and I have to change my life because I need to be true to myself again, right? So a story gives us, ideally, right? Because not every, well, we tell stories because every story that we've been, especially those we've been telling for thousands of years, the big myths, Persephone, Inanna, Demeter, Shakti, like these stories about, maybe you can put in the chat like some other stories that you know, famous stories that have invited you into the recognition of your own deepest mythopoetic identity, right? Because that's what a story does ideally, you know? It's not just that we're listening to a story about Persephone going into the underworld again, but we are connecting to a timeless feminine experience within our own lives, needing to go into the underworld again, needing to face darkness and fertility again, right? Like there's something surges in our own soul when we hear the story, and that's what a story does, ideally, right? Maybe you can still put things in the chat if you want. Josephina says connecting to ancestors, to an ancestor. Yeah. To some kind of ancestral intelligence, right? Yeah, in its different forms. The ancestors, the grandmothers, the timeless feminine grandmother or wisdom that comes as like one ancestor. Mhm. Darren says Inanna's descent for sure is a story that has kind of shaped you. Yeah, me too. Me too. Definitely Inanna's descent is just so potent, and yeah. Anna says Persephone story. Yes, definitely. Very similar. I mean, they're often connected, you know, in the modern thinking or mythology thinking. Inanna and Persephone have a lot of similarities in their mythopoetic journey. Ooh, Michelle, yeah, and that is also like in a way very like what the story of the Selkies, the sea lions, right? In the kind of Irish or Celtic tradition. That's a really powerful story as well. I love it deeply, and it really connects to so many other stories. Oh, I can go into that and like, but we would be spending the next 2 hours there. So I'm gonna pause on that. The seal, oh yeah, the seal woman. Yeah, the seal woman, that's what they are. The Selkies are the seal women. Beautiful, and their skins. Yeah. Oh, I really need to do a workshop on that. Okay. Indigo says stories evoke imagination that can expand, deepen, or even evolve our notions of self, society, and world. Yes. Yes. The red shoes. Currently, Clarissa Pinkola Estes, like she tells it in this particular way. That's really powerful. Yes. And others like Tatterhood, told by Dr. Martin Shaw. Martin Shaw is amazing. I don't know that story, but I will write it down. Foxwoman. Yeah. All right. So we're speaking to all these powerful things, powerful stories, what they do for us. But how about this particular piece, which really I don't know any other movement, tradition, or school of anything that offers their participants to enter a story, to move it, to embody it, and to do an embodiment process inside of the story. So this is our tradition. This is now becoming your lineage. This is something that you are beginning to carry as the deep body work tradition, to be able to tell stories and to use them in a way where you invite your people to come inside the story and do a transformative process there. It's like nothing else, really. It's so potent. And so let's talk a little bit about, what does a story do? Why does a story work? How does a story work in transformative embodiment, as a transformative embodiment process? And I'm going to start us off. I'm going to offer you some of my own thinking, some of why, as I was reflecting on guiding the story yesterday. By the way, I really want to share this with you. I've been telling this story for about probably a decade now. You know how it came about though? And this is how it became a possibility for me. Like I'd never considered doing this before, but I was already doing expressive movement, expressive dance stuff with women. I was calling it intuitive dance, or maybe I wasn't even calling it that yet. I don't know. I was at some portion of my journey and didn't really know what it was exactly. It was never, the deep body model was not born yet. And I went to an experience with this storyteller, Leo Lamb, and she told a story she attributed it to the sea witch, and I was like, and at the same time I was studying, I was reading, I just wasn't really studying with Philip Shepherd, but I knew of Philip Shepherd and I was reading his books. And in one of his books that I really like, there's a practice he describes, and he like actually went to a workshop with him. That's right. And he did that. He did a seaweed practice that was about softening the knees and keeping a root as the body was challenged in different ways and people put pressure on us, right? And so he was talking about the seaweed, not in a mystical way, but he gave the image of the seaweed doing a movement, being challenged by life and finding its center. And then I was like, oh my God, with this woman, Wakami, and this story, and then this practice, it's like, what if people could move inside this, right? So it became like I decided to try it out, and it's been one of the signatures thing I do, and it's so people remember it for years. People talk like, I mean, I noticed that you guys were talking about it in the chat like a month ago because people remember this story, right? But every time before I tell the story, this particular story, not even before, but like telling the story takes everything from me, including yesterday. Like I sweat, I burn, I lose my voice like for the couple of hours afterwards. Like I feel like it works me so hard. My whole body has to like move, catalyze it, and just, I don't know exactly what it's about, but I'm fully spent. Like I have to rest for the rest of the day. I didn't sleep the night before. Like I literally couldn't sleep all night, but the night before. So there's something that a story does with us, through us, that is not necessarily easy, but it is a channeling, right? And so it just felt important to say, because you may notice that you can't just tell a story just sitting there telling a story and expect it to, you will have to move it. You will have to think about how people can move inside of the story, right? Because this story, if you think about it, has so much movement inside of it. The ocean moves, Wakami runs. Wakami bends down to pick things in her basket and keeps going. And then she runs to the next thing, and she goes to the next thing, and she goes to the hut, and it's another environment. And then she has to go into the ocean, and all of that is movement. And if the story doesn't have movement, you have to make sure to create it. The story has to move. And this is where our piece, this is where our tradition comes in, the deep body tradition, the deep body lineage, right? It's what we do. We provide an opportunity for people to come inside a story and to move it and to find themselves in these mythopoetic shapes and soul movements, and to wake up in different ways through the movement. So much movement rather than Wakami. Then I gave you a movement beforehand. I said, let's find in our bodies what a sea plant does first. So while then I'm telling you the story and we get to that piece, you don't have to necessarily just figure it out, but you already touched it in your bodies. And then we went and we gave you the freedom to explore it, right? To build on that. So I already built in a movement before we even went into the story, right? And then there's so much more movement. If you think about it, I asked you to like emerge and walk out into the world as the ancestors were witnessing. And that is a movement. You're walking, there's a progression, a movement progression that happens. And so I'm going to come to you and you can feed a little bit into this as well. And we have to, yeah, we don't have a ton of time to stay here, but just, you know, you have to think about whatever, you know, so let me say this too, like, it doesn't need to be a story. It can be a poem. So many of you, who has been there when I read a poem and then we move the poem in different ways? Have you been there when I work with a poem? What? I remember you being there. I remember you, Nicole and Nina and Stephanie. And okay, it's okay. So I would often work with Mary Oliver poems, with David White poems, and I would sometimes read one line or two lines. I would say, questions that trouble you, questions that enliven you, questions that have no right to go away. And that will be the story we work with today. You know, because when you use poetry to encapsulate something so powerful as deep questions that have no right to go away, as per David White, something moves in the mythopoetic spirit of the person. You're not just saying, let's work with your deep question. What troubles you in your life, or what is a deep question you carry? That is already powerful, right? But when you say deep questions that have no right to go away, you have pulled a string in the human spirit that now opens and is hungry for more, to live into this more, right? So what story is a way for you to bring in a mythopoetic snippet. It can be, do you remember how I set up Hecate? I was going to have you pendulate between a part of you and another part of you. And I said, before you do that, let me tell you about this woman Hecate and the story of Persephone. I spent 2 minutes and I said, you don't have to know much about it, only that she is the one who goes back and forth between the underworld and the world above, between the visible and the invisible. She is the one who knows what's up. And then we went into the movement. I never named her again. The movement was not about Hecate, but I asked you to go back and forth and to wake up to a third woman in you. That wasn't neither the first part or the second part, but it was the one who knows what's up by going between the worlds of the two parts. Do you know what I mean? We're setting something mythopoetic, archetypal, universal, by a snippet of a story, by a snippet of a poem, by a whole story. But this is the use of the mythopoetic, an embodiment. We'll light something up, and we'll light it up so big, like in a small way, but it lights up so much that it just like opens the field, and everybody's like, oh, they're listening 5 times closer because something is alive and important and meaningful now. And I have to say something here on the use of metaphor. We've been doing it from the beginning of our training. You have been doing it. I've been hearing you in different ways. But we have to now name it, right? Like metaphor. So powerful. What metaphor did I use yesterday? Like somewhat like I used a million. But can someone think of it, one metaphor that I used yesterday in the journey, for example? One or two, and you can write it in the chat or you can speak it out loud.
The fox, sorry, the rabbit being like in the embodiment of sensitivity, or the bear being the embodiment of strength.
Yes. And I would say that's more of like the analogies. It's like an analogy of like to think about sensitivity. Imagine how the bunny rabbit is sensitive, right? And I guess that could lean toward metaphor, but I think metaphor, what comes just like really close is like when you speak to a quality or a movement or a thing that is not literally here present physically, but it helps us feel the thing much more than the real thing. For example, let the snake of your spine move and make space in the body. You don't have a snake in your spine. You never will, right? But in some ways, you always do. And that is metaphor, right? For another example is let the lips of your pelvis, or let the lips of your vulva, or let your pelvis open towards the ground, like the petals of a rose would open toward morning sunshine. And just imagine that right now, right? As I say it, like I'm inviting you to let your pelvis open down, like the petals of a rose would open gently toward morning sunlight. Right? I can say, open your pelvis toward the ground. Or I can say what I just said, right? And then the metaphor, the image, people imagine it's like, oh my God, like the level of opening of the pelvis when it's this sacred, soft opening of the petals. It's a whole other level, right? So what was a metaphor yesterday that I used? Now that we're talking about metaphor more specifically. Oh, Irmak says, undulating under the ocean like seaweed. Exactly. Let your body be a sea plant undulating in the flow of the ocean. It's like the perfect example of a metaphor. Like your body is not a sea plant, but when you experience it as one, so much opens up, right? That was the most powerful metaphor of the journey.
I think even the basket, like the metaphor of the basket and the collecting of the gifts into the basket.
Yes. Yes. So beautiful. And what Indigo said too, and what you're saying, Michelle, they kind of belong. I think they belong. I am going to make a little distinction, but it doesn't, we still can hold it under the mythopoetic, right? And how the mythopoetic works is through story and metaphor and analogy and symbol, right? And the basket was a symbol, right? And a metaphor. I don't know. I don't want to say no, it's not this, but it's that. Like it's irrelevant. But if I did have to make a distinction, I'll say the basket is both probably, right? Like, but it's also like here's a symbol. What is the basket a symbol of? People, tell me. Soul, huh? Because why? Why is it soul, the basket? Because it's woven, or because why?
To me, it's more like the container that we are and we don't see. So maybe the mythopoetic container of what we are.
That holds it all. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. It's the mythopoetic container in which we gather what we need, right? Also, It's like for container of soul, container of whatever we need it to be, right? Because in a basket, we gather things that we can carry, right? So it becomes this symbol, and it's also like the symbol of like weaving with natural materials. So like weaving our own basket, our own thing, our own container. The gifts and the skills, Anna, thank you. Yes. So that's do you mean that the basket is a symbol of collecting?
No, it's what is inside.
Right, exactly, right. So, but it is a symbol. I gave it as a symbol of us collecting. I first said what Wakami collected, and then I came back to your own personal journey and I said, go and collect your own loves, your own materials, put things in your own. So you had two versions of working with a basket yesterday as a symbol, right? So, for example, another symbol could be the sword, right? A sword is or a ring. They're very archetypal. The basket, the ring, the sword, the fox fur, even. It's kind of really archetypal. What other metaphors did we use yesterday? Don't be afraid to not, like even if it's not, just, yeah, offer something.
I don't remember that many metaphors, but I feel like there was a time when you were describing how like the relationship that Wakame had with the river, and feel like there might have been metaphor woven in there, and like she didn't have to look to see the path. Like maybe she was the river and the river guided her to the river, something like that.
Yeah, I remember now. Yeah, I was the river, and this just came to me as I was guiding. Like I'd never done this before. I added a million new things to the story yesterday, but that's kind of what we do, right? Every time you tell a story, you kind of, something else happens. Um, but the river offered a path for Wakami. She said, "Follow me, go down alongside me, all the way to the ocean," because the river always finds the ocean at the end, right? Right. So it flows into the ocean. And that was, yeah, thank you for reminding me of that. Yeah, so that was kind of like a map. We gave a map. It's like, oh, and that is a metaphor. You're following somehow a map to the river. You can imagine how a river flows to the ocean, and that becomes a path. So, yeah. So in some ways, and I think so many of you have guided such gorgeous metaphors, whether you've known it or not. It's when you give this kind of soulful suggestion, comparison to something, feel the waters of the river bubble up and clean and sweep clean your womb, for example, or feel the river in your womb, right? Like there's no river in your womb, but there also is, right? So these kind of things, they're beautiful metaphors, and metaphor works so beautiful with our work because it helps us invite people into a deepening into their body, because when you give them a metaphor of the rose or the snake and the spine or the sea plant, they have a language for embodiment, a language that work with sensation and movement, and like sensation is enlivened and they can be more present instead of being like, "Ooh, how do I flow in the ocean?" Like, oh, like a sea plant. Ooh, everybody has seen a sea plant moving in the ocean, right?
I feel like the metaphors really help to inform just the reality that we are our relations, and as opposed to like limiting the experience to the specificity of the anatomical blood and veins and etc. It's like it helps to expand our fractal consciousness, and then we can become our relations in a more conscious, embodied sort of a way. You know, I am the bunny, I am the tree, I am the bark.
Yes, yes. Lovely, awesome, exactly, right? Help us become all characters in the story. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Andrea. Hel?
Yeah, and I noticed that in the modern world, we have so many metaphors coming from the computer, from the technical world. A brain like a hard disk or something like that. And when I teach, I always say I prefer really metaphors from the organic, from the natural world and from the mythic, because it's so poor when we use this like a screen, or what do you have? Even in German, we use English metaphors from the technical word, and it's so it is reducing it. It's not amplifying it. It is reducing it. And I never want. There is in the history when the body was seen as a machine, and that switched. So and that was a really paradigm change, but in a negative way, because then the body was a machine, and then that was had so many consequences. So we really have to be very aware of what metaphor we choose and what we want to evoke or not. Or
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you. Thank you for that. You know, because you could say, even just saying, for example, feel the sensitivity of your vagina, as opposed to saying, feel the sensitivity, feel the moisture of the moss of your vulva, right? Like it's just something about, like, you can do the anatomy, or you can do the natural metaphor, or you can say, feel the sensitivity of your skin, which is good enough, or you can feel the moss of skin, feel the moss on your skin, the tentacles of the moss on your skin. Like, I don't know, I'm just making this up, but there's just like so much like added the natural metaphor can be so powerful. Nina Rubea?
To me, it's a wholesome experience. You get color, you get texture, the whole senses. It speaks to the inner poet and also to humor, which I love so much when there's something really unexpected and you open up because you start laughing or smiling because it's so crazy what you hear. And so it's really primal. I think this is so beautiful. I experienced it with a couple of peers, and it is like I was thinking about like the breath and how can I use metaphors for breath? How can I and I did a peer session with Andrea B, and that really landed. The whole time I was thinking, well, it doesn't really land, and then I was like, breath like honey coiling down, and then it opened her up. That worked. So it's beautiful. And it's so much fun to create it and think of new ways to.
Absolutely. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you. Yes, yes, yes. Finding ways through metaphor to really light up an experience that will be remembered, you know, because it's just like, oh, the metaphor actually really creates something in the body and the consciousness that is memorable. Absolutely. Gives access. Anyone here, anyone else who can remember a metaphor you've worked with in a peer session or a group session recently, or when you've prepared to guide a journey? What is a metaphor you've thought about and you've offered? If you can think of anything, put it in the chat. And we can have a little collection of metaphors. I remember when I was guiding you, the first time we were doing pelvic or sensual body practices through the lower lips. I think at some point I was doing that, inviting you to imagine the earth, the globe of the earth, like like literally entering and becoming kind of embodied and enlivened in your own belly and womb. So it's almost like you're pregnant with the earth, and then you exhale it, and you're just like in the earth, and then maybe you surrender, and then the earth becomes pregnant with you or something like that. Maybe it's a little too elaborate, but I remember using something like that. The cave is a womb, absolutely. Enter the cave of your womb. Always works symbolically, metaphorically. The dream mental. Oh, yeah, like Nina's journey when she worked with dreams. The dream mental, like a cloak. Is that what you used? Oh, that's awesome. Awesome. It's like a symbol, like a symbolic of some witchery. And so you put on a cloak and I hosted a workshop called Cauldron. We moved with the spine as ladle, stirring and pelvis as bowl. Yes, yes, definitely done that before too. Inviting intention into the body as ritual space. Awesome. Yes, starfire in the cells. Nice. Wow. Yeah, it's not like really that this is good. Like when you think about starfire, just even if it's like the blinking or the whatever quality of the stars in your cells is something that happens in the gentleness or in the whatever you want to create with that. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. And, just so that it doesn't go unnoticed, and I know I noticed that all of you who guided already were very aware of this, but, for the story to really work well in our tradition and our lineage, the deep body lineage, we have to offer endless possibilities for the body, not just the mind and the imagination and the curiosity to be engaged, but the body to be engaged. So I noticed, like, for example, Mouse Bird was really naming so many body parts today, like your feet to the ocean, or your fingertips, your hands, your shoulders, there's just so much naming of the body as Mouse was working with the landscape. And I was noticing, like, you all doing it in different ways, just the undulation, the naming the body, offering possibilities for movement, using movement vocabulary. Movement vocabulary. I'm going to spend a little more time on movement vocabulary next weekend in July because, but I think this is a good. Is there anything else that you want to presence, share, speak to in terms of what in the storytelling journey that we haven't named yet worked and is something that needs naming and needs centering that we have not yet named? Something about how we tell story, how we move stories, like what else made this journey what it was?
I found it very profound that you used our story at the tail end of this other story. It moved, it slid in to our own story.
Yes, thank you. So now we're looking more at the context, right? And the guides medicine, the way the guide pulls the strings. And I mean, that is, for me, that is nectar. I love doing this stuff. It's like, oh, and then I'm gonna have them experience themselves as Wakami picking her own herbs, but then I'm gonna have them pick their own things for their own life story, right? And there were so many moments, and like it just, so that's comes down to your own visionary excitement, like what to, because there's so much you can do with story, and it's about like choosing well how to and when. And I also took an hour and a half, right? Like, so it's like, wow, I've never guided a journey that was an hour and a half without pausing. Like, I wouldn't recommend it in general, but Was it too much for any of like did some of you feel like, oh my gosh, like I can't sustain this, I'm tired, when is this gonna end? Honestly, I wouldn't take it personally. Yeah, Anna. You okay?
I had a sleep in the middle, so
You fell asleep?
yeah.
Beautiful.
So I don't know how the story ended. I'm like looking forward to the recording.
Beautiful, actually, because maybe the part of you that was not performing, not really in it, needed to fall asleep so some subconscious self could either rest or actually experience it without the filtration. I noticed, and this is a great time to give this piece. I had this experience. I really judged it in the beginning, but it's happened so many times. Especially if you work in a day long with people and a full day with people, and at some point, one woman will fall asleep, another will, a couple of women will fall asleep at the same time, and it's like, oh my God, like it's offensive to me personally. At the beginning, I'm like, I'm boring, I'm whatever. And then I realized it really has nothing to do with me or how exciting the workshop is. It has to do with nervous system capacity. It has to do with some people really needing to surrender fully. And you know how I learned that it's actually really good for the body to do that is through one-on-one work. And this is science, this is actually um, something that there is research on, and I can link it if you're curious. Like but I didn't know it when I was experiencing it first. Like I would work with clients, and inevitably, over and over, if you reach a place with a client where something big is about to be like, ooh, recognized or acknowledged or transform or be like, oh my God, yes, you will notice, and it's so palpable. Michelle, I wonder if you feel that too. It's like a part of them, and that is the cognitive part, the cognitive brain that is used to keep them safe in some way, will want to check out and will want to be like, and they will start yawning and they will start getting distracted and they will start just not feeling as alive in the session. It will be like, I'm kind of I don't know. Can I get a glass of water? Can I take a break? Can I go to the bathroom? Like this will happen over and over again, right at the brink of something new opening up. Like the brain will actually try to keep us safe or to say, and we will exit. And so for me, it's become like a warrior thing. I mean, I have to keep you awake if I'm in a one-on-one session, right? But if it happens in a group setting, I really trusted. And if you listen to a lot of hypnosis science, because I mean, deep body work is very hypnotic too. But if I've studied hypnosis a lot, and in a way, we are hypnotizing people, right? And a lot of how hypnosis works is that your rational brain may think one thing, and you may be actually fully distracted, thinking about something completely different. And yet you're in a container where the journey is happening and it is connecting to your subconscious mind. So just kind of want to offer these pieces. It doesn't need to be necessarily, true for you, Anna, but just that this is science. Embodiment science.
I will back that up 100%. I am a clinical hypnotherapist, and have been for over 15 years, and which is why I love this work. I do believe we go into trance, and that is part of the power of this work. And yeah, I do really deep, intensive trauma work using brain spotting, and clients will completely dissociate and then leave the session feeling amazing, because a part of them needed to be distracted, as you just said, the cognitive piece, the critical piece, and the work was still happening.
Yes.
Like they come out with these, whatever epiphanies or whatever, and they looked like they were asleep for like a good 20 minutes.
Yes. 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 I just recently had an experience. Thank you, Michelle. Like to back this up, I just had a medical procedure recently that had a sedative component. Like I've never been anesthetized before. It wasn't full anesthesia, it was just brief. And I was convinced I'm awake the entire time, doing the thing, looking at the monitor. I remember asking the team questions the entire time, almost as if to prove that I'm awake. I just really clearly remember that. And then when I left there, I realized I was actually not conscious, that I thought I was conscious, that I thought, like, there's some really tricky stuff happening between the different levels of brain. And it's really amazing because in our work, in the deep body work, we actually work with all of these levels. And so just trust that, please trust that, you know. So I really love when women fall asleep in my workshops these days. It's like, oh good, you know. It's a beautiful thing. And lastly, Nina M, is there anything you wanted to get to add to this? And then we're going to switch gears.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that what really worked for me in the story was a repetition of walking in the forest and collecting. Because at first I just was walking and then just to feel the emotions as Wakame or as myself of the joy of collecting or the urgency when fleeing the armed men and just feeling all those levels in the same path, frankly, of emotions and how to really map them in my body. And also when I was myself again in the last part of the journey, how did I feel when walking on this path with what I had collected? There was some resistance, but also some joy, etc. And so the repetition really helped me track my emotions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you. We are offering, in the context of story, a beautiful opportunity for the emotional body to wake up in all kinds of ways and to, yeah, just really digest emotion. Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you. And we have to move into our next section, but Andrea L., could you be brief with this one?
I'm very brief. I just wanted to say when you start to work with one story, then a lot of other very important myths and stories that you also know come alive too. For me, when you start with this story, then a lot of other memories of myths and stories come up, and they are all together alive in a way. And that is also a universe of stories then together.
Anyone share this experience as well? Yeah, yeah. The stories start kind of living together. It's beautiful. Thank you. Opens up the web, like the web is open. And I think, you know, just to wrap it all up around story for now, and I see your question, Irmak, I'm going to speak to it in a moment. But like, as like story works directly with the collective body level, the archetypal body level, right? That's what a story addresses first. And through that opens up all the other layers, right? It's like, let's move the collective communal archetypal body through story, through myth, through the mythopoetic identity. And then everything else opens up, right? And that's really good to keep in mind that, you know, we work with the collective body. It's almost like a reverse deep body journey, right? Instead of starting at the physical and the emotional and the sensual, we start with the archetypal, and then it opens up the perceptive. It's like, oh, all the stories open up, different characters, the ancestors come, our love for the bunny rabbit comes, like it just all just starts being infiltrated. So it's like it pulses through the whole system. Wonderful people. I love how we all get to think about these things. And so I guess one of your homeworks, and you know, like, I don't think we're going to have a chance in a primary training setting for each of you to work with a story in a witnessed way, but you will have a chance to weave a story into your field project and into your final presentation if you like. However, I do encourage you though, and this is a piece of your homework, not that you're going to come and do it here, but just so that you begin thinking about it in that way for the work that you're going to do later on. Like, what is there already? I'm sure if some of you already have a story that you would love to turn into a deep body journey or work with people through. And if not, then that is your homework. What is a story, a poem, a piece of a story, a scene of a story that you know you need to work with because maybe of how much you love it, you know? And in a way, to work with story, you have to think about the story a lot. You have to live in the story a lot yourself, right? It's not just, oh, you heard the story and it was great, but then to work with it with other people, you have to really be like, oh, what's here and what's here? How can I bring it in a way that opens up for people? So that's your homework, to think about that. And Ermak, the question about how you do it, if you are going to offer a story to a beginner story journey, how many, like, I think that this is where we're going into our field project. And I think that this is a question but because it's specifically about story, I would say because you're telling a story, even if they're beginners, because you're telling a story, they're so engaged because story is engaging. If you are moving them inside a story, if you are having them participate, if you're good at that, right? If you do it well, you can go to 40 minutes with beginners, yes. I would say that. Like, I would probably max it around that time, 40. Yeah, that would be my 2 cents. All right, so oh my gosh, again, like I'm hoping we have enough time, but I wanted to say again.
If we use the story and we weave it in, is it always advisable to also add a piece about their own feeling, what is there for them at the end, not just like, go through the story and then it's finished?
I think there are many different answers to this question, but it's like maybe like many times when I said tell the story of Okami, I tell the story without any personal continuation, and then we do that when we sit down or in witnessing or in the next session, right? It doesn't need to be part of the telling. You can tell the story once. Then if you are following up with the same group, you can tell it another time. This time though, through the more personal lens, right? So there's many ways to do it. If you're just going to do one session, I would say most of the time I do a brief personal integration piece at the end. Sometimes, like yesterday, it was 40 minutes of that, or like it was a long time. Sometimes it's 5 minutes, right? But it's rich to connect it to something personal for a little bit. When you are going to introduce the field project right now. I was supposed to start 20 minutes ago, but we're going to start now. So people, the time has come for you to begin your work on the creative field project. Let's bring all of our attention like this. So this is going to take a lot of focus. I'm going to move through this fast. And all of this is also going to be something you can ask many questions about, not just today, but later on. Also, this will be in writing to you with all kinds of guidelines. It's also all on the calendar. So right now, just kind of take it in, take it in. The Creative Field Project is basically an opportunity for you to cultivate, create an offering for your communities and your chosen audience, an audience that deeply resonates with your personal genius at this time, right? This is the community you want to serve. Not the easiest community, maybe, so not your friends, but you actually want to experiment with reaching the community you actually want to serve and inviting it in. And creating an offering that demonstrates and creates a container where you can actually put your magic to practice. And when you can demonstrate to yourself, really, but also to all of us, just like how deeply you have woven the deep body technologies and tools and practices and vocabularies into your own frameworks, right? So I'm going to look at my notes for a second just so I'm staying on point. Okay. So it basically is a weaving of the deep body model, right? It has to be a deep body journey. And that is one of the requirements for the specific field project, is that you're not simply taking the deep body technologies and using them a little bit to facilitate something different, but the requirement is to actually center whatever the offering is on the deep body method, right? So you get a chance to fully facilitate the deep body method, not just something else by using a little bit of the deep body method. Basically, you're centering the journey on the deep body method, right? Like on these deep body strategies. And there is 2 requirements. Well, I think there's a few requirements, but the substantiality requirement, which means this must be present in order for this to be considered a valid graduation project, is that your project needs to be substantial enough to allow you an extended opportunity to offer deep body infused facilitation or counseling. And so to meet the substantiality requirement, you have to offer a project that is at least 6 hours, 6 full hours of group facilitation. That does not include the lunch break, for example, right? So if you're leading a Saturday workshop, one day, it has to be 6 full hours outside of the lunch break. So 6 hours of facilitation for a group, or at least 8 hours of facilitation for individuals. And when I say this, these are the minimum requirements that you must meet. However, I full-heartedly encourage you to go well beyond these minimum requirements in your creative field project. Okay? We will recognize your project and accept it if it meets these minimum requirements, but I really encourage you to go beyond that time frame. So for example, to not stop yourself at teaching just one day long, but just to actually offer a full weekend or offer a 6-week program, right? Yeah, because why not? Because people, okay, in 2 years, you will remember nothing of this training beyond what you experienced in your body, the glimpses you took while you were guiding sessions or you were guided in a way that stuck, and like what you actually end up doing in your real life. Everything else will be forgotten unless you go back and read and revisit. Like it has to be put to practice, and it's the only way. You know, when medical students study for like 5 years, the only way they become doctors is in the surgery room and the residency, right? It's like you have to put the scalpel, like you have to put the knife on skin. You have to see people bleed and die in your hands, and that's how you become a doctor, you know? Just it has to happen, right? So we have to do it, and which is why I'm really encouraging you to take on the full invitation to brave something larger as your creative field project. And I'm going to share my little screen here. Oh no, I can't for whatever reason. So stupid. I don't know why this is. Okay, I'm going to work on this next time, but I can't share my, oh no. Uh-oh. Now I'm sharing my entire, okay, no, I don't want to do that. So I just want to, in the document, you will receive the outlines, all the deadlines, everything you need to do. You will see all the possible examples of how you may go about your project. For example, you may choose to teach a day long. You may, let me look at this again. You may choose to work with 4 one-on-one clients, or 2 one-on-one clients that are at least 4 sessions with each person. Right? We can do that. You can do a collaborative project with another facilitator where you design at least 50% of the workshop and facilitate at least 50% of the workshop that is like rooted in the deep body and is at least 6 hours in length and so forth. You're going to see all of these suggested formats that could spark your imagination about what you could do. And so the main thing about this is to think about your chosen community, the community you want to serve, whether that's women in the first trimester or women wanting to get pregnant or men seeking to connect with their sensuality or feminine side, right? Or, older people need, like older women needing to restore the erotic in their bodies. Like what do you most care about? What would you die for? Who are the communities you want to serve? Who is the community waiting for your gift? And so this workshop is for them. And the unwritten requirement of this field project is that you create a project of your heart, which really meets your personal genius and allows it to express, allows it to unfold, right? This is a project that allows your personal genius to give its gift to the world. And there will be different components. So you will receive a question, you will receive a working sheet. Each of you will have an individual worksheet, like the personal genius, but it's going to be one that you can work with online and fill in online. Yeah. And so it's going to ask you all kinds of questions so you connect deeper to the essence of your project. And questions like, write a 2 to 3 paragraph description of your concept. What is it? Be clear about the service, the experience you will offer. What needs will it serve? What outcomes will be expected? Yeah. Because we need to start thinking about, yeah, it's a gorgeous, mysterious, feminine flow, but what needs will it serve? What outcomes can people expect, right? So the worksheet will keep you focused in practical ways. You're going to have to think about the more practical, that like all of the layers, right? So you're going to start working with this like tomorrow, right? Like feel free to start working with it tomorrow. I'm going to give you the timeline of how it's going to flow. Then some of the other questions that you will see there are about what will be the format, right? Like the frequency, the length. Am I going to do a 6-month program? Am I going to do like 10 individual sessions with 2 different clients? Like what will it look like? What will be the container? Then, of course, you will have to think about your audience, and how will you deliver it? Will it be a Zoom class? Will you have to rent a studio? Will part of it be in the forest and part of it come to the studio for containment? Nature studio, or just studio, or Zoom. I fully encourage you, if it is possible for you, to do a live experience in body and person. There's nothing like it. You will have a chance to be called to your facilitator genius in every way, right? Like it will feel just so rich to do it with the bodies in the room. If you can. You can certainly do it on Zoom, but it's, okay, that was clear. You will have to think about when is your start date? How much was it going to cost? Will it be offered as a in training offering? I'm just doing this as a free offering as a part of my graduation project, or donation based or low cost, or is there a firm price, right? So you have to work with what you're comfortable with doing. And if I was only able to share my calendar here, I would love to share, but for whatever reason, it's not allowing me to. Oh. Well, I'm going to try and do that. I think it's probably going to let me try. Let's say share my calendar. Wow. Can you see? Can you see my calendar? Yes or no? Thank you.
Yes.
Awesome. So this is, and I want to, okay. So if we just are looking, this is our training calendar. You will have to next time, so on our practicum, which is when? Which is the 18th, we will have a chance to workshop your offering a little bit. But by then, by the practicum, you will have to have looked at the worksheet and thought about your project and written down your questions and engaged with your ideas, and then bring them to the practicum. We're going to workshop it then. And by June 30th, you will have to submit your first draft, which really means that, can you see this now? Can you see the non-calendar thing? Okay. So you will have a worksheet like this with space to write. This one doesn't have it, but you will have a worksheet that is fully yours, that doesn't belong to anybody else, that you can edit and you can write. And so you will have to submit, you will have to do your writing of your ideas and answer all the questions on your sheet. And we will be able to access that sheet. And so by June 30th, you will have to have your first draft written in so we can access it. And in that sheet, we will be able to give you feedback in the comments section, most likely and maybe Carmen and Michelle too. We'll see. We'll be able to give you feedback. We need you to say more about this. Well, how about that? Well, change a little bit, like give us a little more here. We can do some coaching, we can do some feedback. We can also do that through voice notes if we find it necessary with you. And then what happens, we're going to come back to the calendar. So then, am I looking? Wait, I'm a little challenged technologically. Okay. And then we go to July, and by is that July? Okay. Wow, we're giving you, yeah, okay. So then you will receive feedback by July 20th. So you will submit your first draft. You will receive feedback by July 20th. And then by July 30th, which is 2 months from now almost, well, not less than 2 months, but you will be submitting your final draft. Which means that worksheet in which you are writing in your ideas and proposals will have to be in its final version. You have edited it, you have looked at our suggestions, and you now have a final version of your draft by July 30th, I believe. Oh no, it's August 6th actually. But it might be helpful. So I'm gonna get out of this because I want to see you as I'm talking. So those timelines, that timeline of having to be done by August 6th and complete with your final draft, is the final deadline, right? But I encourage you to be complete earlier, right? You can be complete earlier so you can actually begin working on creating the event, creating the possibility in the world, to have more time. You don't have to always do everything last minute, right? So it's up to you, but that is the final time frame. By July 30th, you will have to have submitted your recorded peer session as well. That's separate from the field project, but just a reminder, we told you about this maybe a month or two ago. You have to record one of your peer sessions, or you have recorded many of them maybe, but you submit one And this doesn't mean we necessarily are going to send you feedback on it. We're not, but we will look at it. Okay, we're not going to be like this is for our purposes. This is just for supervision purposes. But we need to have one recorded session from you submitted by July 30th. And we will send instructions for how to do that. Your final quiz for the training will be due by August 30th. So you're going to probably receive it sometime in August, and you will have a month to complete. So pretty spacious, right? Like there's time. And you may think, oh, I have 4 months to get my project going. But really, I encourage you to really begin now, because getting feedback from us, finalizing your creative field project and beginning, it takes a lot to figure out how are you going to do the outreach. Are you going to have a video in the social media? Are you going to do an email address through to your communities? How are you going to popularize, right? Okay, so, and we will be helping you with that. You will not be alone. But let's start now, don't wait. That's going to feel a lot more easeful than leaving it all for the last minute. So I'm just going to talk through my points, and then I'm going to see if I have time to answer these things now or in a moment. But I think I just only need to tell you also this. It feels really important. In September and October, and potentially even one of the August calls, we will be in full presentation mode, which means that our last 2 weekends will be you presenting your creative field project by leading us through a segment of it. Practice and experience, back and forth, Q&A, whatever you want to do, right? It doesn't need to be a deep body journey, but it gives us a sample of your creative field project. We will have a sign-up sheet. You will each choose the day you will participate, but assuming that you have the same desire that I do, for each of you to have the full attention of the entire group and not just to break up into 2 groups, because that's going to make it a lot easier for everybody to, it would save us a lot of time if you presented just to have the group. It would save us a lot of time, and it would open time for other things. So I will leave it up to you. We can take a vote. But assuming that you want to each have the attention of the full group, and for us to move through each person's projects and to give them feedback and to celebrate them, what I want to invite you to block out in your calendar now is that on the last 2 weekends in September and October, we have to add half an hour to each session, to each call. And I know that adds time, and I know not everybody will be able to do it. And if you have 3 children that you need to put to bed, or if it's like something, we fully understand that you have to leave early, and that's okay. But just if we can't do that, for us to see everyone and to hold them in full attention, we have to have a little more time. So we're adding half an hour to each session in every call in September and every call in October. Karina Leal will be teaching a live The Art of Holding Space session on Wednesday, July 2nd. Given all we have to cover on the primary calls, we can have Karina, and it's not working with her schedule anyway, to be on a weekend call with us. But you're invited to join us live, and it's already on the training calendar, and I will send you a calendar invitation. If you were able to join us live, you can. Otherwise, it will be a visiting teacher guest recording that you have to see. Karina is amazing. Some of you know her. And she will be offering a really indigenous approach and view of the art of holding space and taking care of ourselves and of our communities when we are in the facilitator role. And in August, we will have also live. I'll probably invite you live, but it's not going to be on a primary call. So you can either come or not, or you can watch the recording with Caitlin Naramur, who's a business coach, soul-centered business coach for women. And she will talk to us about the business of taking our projects into the world, right? And how to make them sustainable. And my friends, I think I've talked through it all. And this is not the end of you asking questions about it. I'll answer a couple now. And then Wednesday, remember, you have to have looked at the worksheet. You have to have thought about your project. You have 10 days. And then we can workshop it on Wednesday. And that's going to be so delicious to hear about your ideas and to encourage each other in different ways and to maybe give you more ideas about your project. Mouse Bird is asking, oh, how about language? Your event can be in German, but your presentation has to be in English, right? That's but you can teach it in German. We will not supervise your execution of the project. Like we will not be present for your project. So like it's beyond their capacity, but we will supervise different components and we can talk about that later. So meaning that you don't have to make it understandable to us, the teachers. It could be just for your community, you can use your native language, but your presentation here has to be in English clearly. Mouse is asking, we don't necessarily have to complete this within the frame of our container here. Yes, it has to be initiated by October 1st. So before the training completes, but you don't have to have ended or completed your project before the training completes, but you have to have initiated it. You have to have started. You have to come to us and say, I started and this is how my first session went. So that is a requirement. And Anna is asking if there's a deadline to finish the Creative Field project. No, but you have to have initiated by October 1st. But when you complete it, it's up to you. However, in order for you to receive the certificate, you have to come to us and say, I have completed my Creative Field project. So if you want your certificate within 4 months, you probably want to complete your project. Like it kind of is, your graduation project is a requirement for us to send you a certificate at the end. So you have to say, hey, I'm done with all of the requirements for the certification. All right. Who here is excited about their creative project? Yes. Good.
Could I
Well,
ask a question?
yes.
Could it be, for example, 3 2-hour sessions with the same group, but let's say it has a different theme?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
That is the minimum requirement,
Minimum.
which, I would say have a 5-session program if you, like I would say go for deeper, but it meets the requirements, yes. All right, so we will see you again on Wednesday, the whatever that is, 17th. Hopefully I will see you also on the 19th, which is the opening of our What Our Bodies Know community. Anyone here planning on joining? Michelle and Nina M.
What is it?
Beautiful.
Why do you say that again?
I sent an email about it. We're opening a community, and I've sent you a discount code. It's like a community for the mature feminine. It's called What Our Bodies Know. So it's basically an ongoing community. These are live gatherings with me every month. And then we will be adding different teachers. At some point, some of you will be assisting in that community. So it really is a golden opportunity if you want to stay closer to the DBI, if you want to come in and have a chance to maybe do some of the support teaching or just come and stay part of the community. I strongly encourage you to check it out. And no worries if it's not within your capacity. All right, that opens on the 19th, but you can come anytime. You can come in any month, anytime. It's ongoing. All right, dears, let's unmute to exhale or inhale or sound, the wakami sound, whatever feels right. All right, we will see you soon. Any questions, just send them our way and rest well.
All right, thank you everyone. Much love.